Welcome to Research Like a Pro with DNA, the question and answer series based on the question, how can I use Airtable? Based on the question, how can I use AI in Airtable? All right, so we all know that AI is so beneficial and we are starting to use it in a lot of different places, but can we use it within Airtable? And the answer to that question is absolutely we can. Airtable has a help article all about AI agents. And here's just a few thoughts from that AI in Airtable or AI assistants just generally are designed to help humans with tasks through conversation and collaboration. So how great that we have a tool that we can use to collaborate with us as we are entering data into our timeline and our research log. It can respond to requests, provide information, and perform actions when asked, all very valuable, and operates under human guidance rather than independently, which is so important because we want to be the human in the loop, giving all AI guidance about what to do with our data. Now, the neat thing with Airtable AI is that it uses other large language models as the underlying AI, and we can choose. So if we have a favorite model we prefer, such as Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini, we can choose the model. So within Airtable AI, today we're going to talk about two pieces of it, Omni and field agents. And so this whole idea of Omni, which is kind of the overall AI assistant there within Airtable, you can adjust your settings. And I'm using my example of my Henderson Weatherford research log, and you can see that when I opened up settings that it was already toggled on. The Omni was going to be able to do all sorts of things. If you don't want it to talk to you or do anything with your data without, you can just turn it off. But there's no reason not to have it turned on. So it says it respects each user's base interface permissions. It can only see data they're able to access directly via the base or interface. So Omni's going to just use what is in your research log. So if you put in correct data, it's going to use that correct data to help make conclusions and help you draw out the information. So it does get some helpful information here. It asks the question, what context should Omni know about your organization or app? And here you get to put in whatever you like. I have not put in anything, but this is here for you, so you can certainly describe. Um, I am a professional genealogist. I want to have information about my research project. Think about what would be good, and you could even ask it to help you to write that context better. And then you could maybe ask it for help about preferences. So you could think about things like be professional and concise, or be very careful to be absolutely accurate. You think about what you would like to have for your preferences and could ask Omni to help you formulate those as well. And then this will be an overlying setting within your research log with AI. You may be wondering, how much does this cost? Well, it's a free plan that most of us have. I usually only work with a free plan, and you get 500 credits per workspace. Notice that I have a lot of different workspaces over here, and you get 500 per workspace. So if you run out of credits, you can move your base to a new workspace and then continue on. They will roll over your credits each month, each calendar month. And to check how much you've used up, you just go to this home page here that lists all your bases, and then you would click on whichever base you're checking or your workspace you're checking. Pick the one that you've been working with AI in. And then in the settings, you can see how many credits. So I have not used very many credits in the things I have done so far, which makes me happy, which means I can keep working with AI quite a bit. So how do you get this to be able to show up? Well, you have to open it up from the left sidebar. There's a little circle with the Omni icon, and you just click it, it opens up. And then you get to choose what you want it to do. And it has recommended, ask, analyze, or build options. So that's very helpful. It gives you some ideas of what to do. And already it's looking at my log and it's giving me some ideas about what I could possibly do. So I could find all the entries related to Henderson in Dallas County, or I could ask it about the main source types, or I could create a field agent to summarize key findings from each attachment. So in a few slides, I'm going to show you what happened when I did that. So I took it up on its offer to do that, but we're going to hold on to that thought for just a minute. It's fun to try some of these recommended actions and see what happens. Now you can also click on ask and then it gives you some ideas. So you can ask anything. List all research log entries related to John Money Weatherford. He's one of about 10 Weatherford individuals in this log. And so I could have it just tell me all about whichever person I want it to. Or I could try to find all the sources that I've entered about Izard County from Family Search or summarize key findings from tax lists. So this would be a helpful one since I have about 100 different entries for tax lists. And then we can also try analyze, and it gives us some ideas. What are key source types? Analyze research results by website to see which sources are most common. Some of these questions are things that sometimes we just don't even think about asking. Very interesting. Which person has the most research log entries linked to them? Okay, well, we usually know who that is, who we're working on, but it's fun to see that question. Now, here's one that's really interesting that I want you to pay attention to, and this is build. We're used to asking AI to do all sorts of things for us, and we're used to asking AI to build things in the context of maybe, creating a source citation or creating a table, that type of building. But within Airtable with Omni, you can have it create a whole field to track priority research level. So this is one that I do not have. Maybe that's one I would like to add. But if you've been thinking you would like a field, something that you'd like to track, I know some people like to track to-do items. Or if you're thinking as you're filling out your log that you really would like to have a field that would track whatever else you can think of, you can go over here to build and have Omni create that for you. You just would describe what you want it to do and then keep chatting with it until you get it to be how you want it. So it gives some ideas. Here's create a table named DNA test results, which we already have. Create an interface page to summarize findings and next steps. Yeah, maybe that would be nice. I will just note that once it does something for you, if you don't like it, you undo it. So here was that suggested field that it said it could build for me, and it was to create a field to summarize the AI assist field and include the suffix AI assist in the name of the output field. So it's telling me double here, and I could certainly have changed this. I just decided to go with whatever it suggested. And after it created it, it said, how did the changes look? And I could give it a thumbs up, thumbs down. I could undo it. I could hide it. I did go in and take a look at the settings that it created for me. It went to the default, which was ChatGPT 4.1. And over here, if you click this down arrow, you can get a lot of other choices. And it created its own custom instructions. And as we know, the instructions or prompts are really important to get AI to do what we want it to do. So these could be easily changed. This is all editable. I could edit that. Now notice that there's some other settings here that we could experiment with to enable internet searching, to link it to Google Drive or OneDrive, and to run automatically. So if we don't want it to take actions automatically, we would not have that clicked on. If we do want it to automatically do something, then we would toggle that on. So this is something that we can have on or off here. So let's talk for a minute now about field agents because what it is doing here is building me a field agent. It helped, but we can also build them ourselves. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So these field agents function autonomously. They perform tasks without human approval, but according to boundaries and oversight. So we are setting them up by putting in the context, doing all the settings how we want it to go. And then apparently they will continue to learn and improve. This is from Airtable's help page. And remember context across sessions. So this is nice if we're working right within our research log and our timeline and we're working with AI. It's getting used to how we like things within this specific base. So here's how you would go about adding an AI field agent. You would add a new field, and what you do is you just right click on any of your fields, and you would say, add it to the right or to the left. And then the field agents are now right here at the top. It used to be these were not here. And when you added a new field, you would just have the standard fields and you would select whether you wanted it to be long text, single text, any of these. But now you can choose from some of these options. And so one of the things that you can try, because transcription is so very helpful for us as genealogists, is to say, analyze an attachment. And if you have added attachments to your research log or timeline, such as a deed or a will, a census, a document, any kind of document that you might have added as an attachment, you can have it analyze it right there within Airtable. And then you would provide any of your special transcription instructions. And I have some things that I always like to prompt AI with this. And then it will transcribe any document you've attached. And as I said, your free plans have 500 credits per user per month. And it doesn't seem to have used too many credits in doing the transcription. When I did this, it transcribed two or three tax records and two deeds, maybe one or two other things, and it only used 44 credits. So I was happy to see it didn't use a lot of those. Now you can change that to whatever you want it to be, the model. The ChatGPT is the default, but Gemini 3 right now is our best transcriber. And so I changed it to Gemini 3 Flash, and I put in my custom instructions to transcribe the document, preserving the line breaks, keep the spelling the same as the original, put any unknown words in square brackets. And you would see that it's going to work on attachments. This is the field it's going to work with. So any attachment, it is going to transcribe. And then, we save that and it went to work. I didn't have to do anything else. Once I had done that, it looked at each one of the fields where I actually had an attachment and it attempted to transcribe. Now, it did a good job with the deeds. It obviously couldn't do anything with the empty fields where I had not put any attachment in, and it struggled with this tax list, which was a little messy and difficult to read because other tax lists it actually did attempt to transcribe, and tax lists are difficult. So this one, it just said, I don't know. There you go. But I was happy to see how the transcription came out. The line breaks were absolutely accurate. When it didn't quite have room to finish it, it would just put it down here below so I would know, that's supposed to go over here on the end. And it did a really good job with the transcription. So as it was working, I kept working within the same base. I didn't have to go away and come back later. I just let it do its thing while I was working. So then I also had that assist summary. And that was taking whatever my transcription was and summarizing it for me. So this one I was not as happy with. This one was the default that it built for me. AI built this for me within Airtable, and it was pretty general, which maybe is okay, but I prefer an abstract that's a little bit more robust. And so this is what I had previously done with Claude over in Claude, independently. And it gave me such a nice abstract with headings and, just kind of telling me exactly what was going on and bullet points. So I edited my prompt for the summary and told it to provide all relevant details and use bullet points. And I did change the model to Claude to see if it would do better. It still did not do bullet points, but it did get the details better. So this was still pretty good. And so what's the takeaway from all this? Well, I could have this all set up so that when I add that, um, whenever I add an attachment, it's going to automatically trigger this to go ahead and start transcribing and then do the summary when this is complete. And so I could keep working on my log and then I could come back and read this and have it all ready to go. So that's kind of a fun workflow. It's a fun idea to try out. My main tip is to experiment with AI Assist within Airtable and see what it can do. You may not be successful right off the starting point, but see what happens if you try different prompts, if you set it up differently. Just experiment. That's all we can do. And of course, you undo anything you don't like. If it adds something and it's not what you wanted at all, you can undo that so that you can get back to where you were before you tried something fancy. So hopefully this helps, gives you some fine ideas about how you can use AI within Airtable using its new built-in AI. So thank you and good luck.